Good morning, beautiful people. As we heard last night in the Melanie Gibb Dateline episode, that we all can count on one thing. Even though the world is beautiful, there's a lot of ugly out here. And let's talk about that interview. But let's talk about it from the standpoint of what the cult really wants. Or let's say the Lori Chad Daybell cult. What was it that Lori and Chad and their followers and the people that claim, no, they're not in a cult, but they really are in a cult because they're acting like cult people? And what is cult people? My understanding from this cult, because I think every cult's a little different, but my understanding from this cult is exactly this. They want everything. They want to live in this superficial world where when you get the bumps in the road, they don't recognize them as bumps in the road. They take them as small little things that can never touch them. And what do I mean by that? I mean, there's a lot of people in this world who cannot handle the real stresses of living. And I think the cults are exactly that. They don't want to handle what it takes to live and to succeed by not just dreaming. See, all these people are dreamers. And we all know dreaming isn't bad. Dreaming is what makes artwork, that makes literary, profound writings. And dreaming is what makes our brains work overtime to get to the place that the dream is. But these people aren't doing that. They're living in a very superficial world. And how do we know this? Let's just take Melanie Gibb's interview last night. Let's just take her interview and say, what was that all about? Really, what was Melanie Gibb? Oh, really, what was Melanie Gibb? Oh, really, what? Oh, I got the volume on again. I hit the volume button. Sorry, guys. So, what happened? What happened last night on Dateline is extraordinary in the sense that we got to see up front exactly when there's mind control. And I'm not going to say that someone sat over Melanie Gibb and, waved a watch and her eyes went to the right, her eyes went to the left, and she got hypnotized. And therefore, they did serious mind control while she was hypnotized. And then she came out of the hypnotized session and was a totally different person. No, that's not what it's about. It's a belief system that they do the indoctrination with, that they subtly, slowly, over time, indoctrinate themselves and all their followers with. And why I titled this kind of cult versus humanity is because us mortal beings, me sitting in the chair that I'm sitting in right now, really tells me that, you know, this world is powerful. But they don't think of it that way. They think that they're all powerful. There's two sides of them. One, they never made it past id. It is when you're a baby and a toddler and you think, oh, the world's just about me. Everyone's here to serve me. Everyone's here to make me feel good. If I have a problem, I can just lay here, cry or smile or whatever I do to get attention, and I will get attended to. This is exactly where they live. They have never ever built a super ego. And you see it with Melanie Gibb last night. You see there's no super ego in her. That means a caring for other people outside the world. That means she doesn't attach herself. There's something devoid in these people. They think they are better. And it's not that they prance around in the day and say, hey, I'm a better human being than you. But there's something inside of them that is built in that does exactly that. They are prancing around within themselves, thinking they are better. And why do I say this? I say it simply because, listen, if you think you've lived multiple lives and you've been, friends with King James, he came over from England way back when, and he gave out land to the poor people, and everyone thought he was something. Well, they're not giving out land to the poor people. They're not doing anything special to add to society. They are being the King's James, but not doing anything to give back into the world. And they have themselves so relegated to this higher position that me and you sitting in our chairs or wherever you are right now can never be. They think they have some type of innate power, that they are as close to godliness or our godliness. And that's what makes the Melanie Gibb interview last night on Dateline so abhorrent. How can you think you're part God? How can you erase and delete the rest of humanity and it's only about you? So when I saw that interview, I saw exactly that. It all encompassed Melanie Gibb thinking she has the eyes that are godly, and they're looking at the world and telling their stories from this so far away place. Their place is so, they can't touch humanity. They're so far away that they're telling the story like they really can't identify with us mortal human beings. That Melanie Gibb is so removed from her chair, her couch, her sofa, whatever she's sitting on. And last night it happened to be a chair in front of Keith Morrison, that I wonder if she really thought that she was a movie star or something, because that's how she acted. She didn't act like she was telling a story of murder and mayhem by her contemporaries. She was acting like this is what goes on in life. And since I'm so above this, I can't emote this to you, because I don't emote. I don't have feelings. So I can only tell you the story zombified. And she better start running. Because if she really believes there are zombies, if Melanie Gibbs, which it sounded like she accepted anytime Chad or Lori or anyone else told her there were zombies. She didn't go, pardon the French, F this, I'm out of here. She never said, F this, I'm out of here. When her friends, Lori and Chad and whoever, talked about zombies, she sat and listened. And she'd ask that question. What makes you say that they're zombies? Like she was mystified. Not mystified like me and you. If someone called our kids a zombie, you know what would happen. We'd probably never speak to them again. Or someone with a propensity to be violent might, do something a hair bit violent. But people don't go around seriously calling children zombies. But what made Melanie different? Why didn't Melanie see this? Why didn't Melanie know that in January of 2019, when Lori started calling Charles a zombie and even identified him as Ned Schneider, why didn't she know to get rid of her friend? Like I would have been like, are you out of your mind? How can you be calling your husband Ned Schneider? And more so, how can you be threatening to kill Ned Schneider? Okay, you don't believe Charles Vallow lives in Charles Vallow's body, but what about Ned Schneider? Isn't he there? And why are you threatening, if he gets in your way of your mission, to be sequestering all these people for the 144,000 club? Melanie Gibb, why didn't you report her? You knew she was threatening to kill Charles, aka Ned Schneider. So I don't understand how the cults wipe out humanity. And they don't wipe it out, as they say, like drinking the Kool-Aid like Jim Jones did. That's not wiping out humanity. That's making themselves so far above us that they don't see us in the same light. They don't see flesh and blood. They only see or feel, if they can even really feel, that they are way above us. And that is where it all goes wrong. And now I understand why the beauty queen, Lori Vallow, Daybell, can be parts of these beauty queen competitions and all of the things that she has done in her life that has been superficial, that only highlighted superficiality. It makes sense. How can it not make sense? If that's all you care about is how your body looks, how godly. I mean, when Lori wore her gown as a beauty queen, that was a symbol. That wasn't just a girl, wearing a long gown and feeling great, with her jewels on and her hair done up and her high heels. No, this was a woman in a silk satin gown, whatever it was made out of. Might have been polyester because she's so fake. But anyways, there's a woman wearing a gown When she walked in that competition, it wasn't Lori Ryan at the time, because that was her name. She was married to Joe Ryan. That wasn't Lori Ryan Daybell at the time. That was a goddess. When those judges were sitting in their little table looking at Lori Ryan, in her mind, they were looking at a goddess. So when she smiled, she was saying, yep, that's me. Yep, I'm the golden one. I'm goddess personified. And she really felt it. I'm not exaggerating any bit here. Lori Ryan, Vallow, Daybell, whatever name you know her best by, was thinking she was a goddess. And when I say a goddess, it wasn't just her looks and her fine attire, her fine gowns that she wanted to wear, but it was her whole spirit. And when you're a goddess, just look at the pictures from when there was goddesses way back when. Look at the pictures. You got someone serving you grapes. You got someone fanning you off because you're hot. You got a maid or whoever standing there with a nice cold drink with all kinds of fruit in it. You're a real goddess. She is a goddess. And why I can't get off this and why I've been talking about this for however many minutes, I'm not kidding you. That is why they can't connect with us, because they are above us. In their heads, they have manifested royalty. They have manifested godliness in themselves. They are supreme beings. This is why the cult is so destructive. This is why they could kill their own children. This is why they could wipe out people for money. Not because they're bank robbers, because they deserve that money. And they deserve it snap of a finger. So when they killed Charles Vallow, that $1 million buckaroos was most important, way above the human flesh and blood that Charles Vallow was made out of. He couldn't compete with them. He could have gone to every service, whether it was police, whether it was counselors, psychologists, psychics, throwing everything in the pot of services. He could have gone and asked for help. But when you are dealing with people who are that delusional, who think they are gods and goddesses, what they use for artillery, we can't compete with. So here we go. We got the gods and goddesses, and they got these beauty queen syndromes. They really think, not beauty queen as far as what they look like. They got the beauty queen syndrome inside of themselves. Melanie Gibb, on her interview on Dateline last night, she was the star. She was glowing. She was so proud to tell us her story. And it wasn't proud to tell us her story because she's letting out secrets of what happened to make these murders. It's her proudness that she is getting all this attention and people are looking at her. We're filling her ego. And that bullcucker story, the bullcucker story when her boyfriend, David Warwick, who they never announced as her boyfriend, I saw. They just announced him as a religious person of Melanie Gibbs. But it's my understanding that David Warwick is her boyfriend. They were at Lori's house and they had listened to Lori claim that JJ was uncontrollable, out of control, doing his job well, as I will say. When you have a diagnosis, when you have a symptom that isn't mainstream and you act out, you're doing your job. I'm going to say, if JJ was an autistic child, unmedicated, when he was acting out at Lori's, he was doing his job. And it took them as the adults to modify his job, whatever way that modification might have been, whether it would be giving him his medicines that the doctors prescribed, or doing some things to help him out, giving him maybe some attention. Maybe these gods and goddesses that we're learning about don't know how to give children attention. Maybe they don't have, because they're so superior, then you would think that they might have missed the mark of being able to cuddle and have loving moments for their child, not with their child, for their child, giving their children loving moments, not taking loving moments from them, giving them loving moments. There's a totally different thing. And so that is what I'm saying. I'm saying these people are so superior that when that David Warwick said that Lori was telling him that JJ went crazy, climbed on top of a refrigerator cupboard, made all kinds of things fall off, or at least a picture of Jesus Christ. Why they have Jesus Christ in their kitchen, I'll never know, because they're demons. So it's beyond me why they have pictures of Jesus. What do they throw darts at him? Is it a picture up high to throw darts at? Because that's all they've demonstrated to me. They don't have any Jesus Christ in them. But anyways, he's up there. Lori's telling David and Melanie how out of control he is and he's being destructive. I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a minute. And big deal. We hear about kids, don't we, guys? I mean, you tell me. I hear about kids all the time doing things destructive, whether they're autistic or not. I mean, kids are like that. So what kind of a big story? Like, Melanie, where'd you get that story? Dave, where'd you get that story? What was so big about that story? To me, it was an empty vessel. It wasn't a story. It had no significance. All children act up. All children. What was the point of telling that story about JJ acting up? But anyways, I take the interview is that Melanie Gibb is so full of herself, so undeniably lacking of any humanity that I can't believe that these people who are actually well looking, they dress well, they have a good look to them. They look human. I mean, if I saw Melanie Gibb on the street, I'd look at her and say she looks like a nice human being. But that ain't true. You cannot be a nice human being and hear that everyone around you has been zombified and you don't do anything about it. I mean, what was it going to take for Melanie Gibb to call the police for anything? I mean, she isn't going to call the police over JJ climbing up on the refrigerator. But is she going to call the police when they're saying that everyone around them is becoming zombies? And she had evidence. The evidence was Charles had turned into a zombie. What more evidence do you need? He was murdered. So if zombiehood equals murder, don't you think a person would react? No, they can't, because she didn't react. She didn't call police. She didn't do any of the things because it doesn't bother her. Flesh and blood doesn't mean anything to supreme beings like Melanie Gibb and her remaining cult. And I don't know who's in this cult. I've said it before. Who the heck? How many people belong to people that have that kind of ideas? Even Charlie Manson, the girls that went and performed the murders in Texas, the guy that went to the house the night that the Charles Manson gang or cult killed Sharon Tate and the people that were visiting and staying overnight, even them can say that it wasn't right. Even they can say that they should have done something. Melanie doesn't utter those words. She doesn't say I should have done something. She just clams right up and acts like, well, why would that have triggered a response from me? See, Melanie, when a rat goes in the trap and there's a piece of cheese, that piece of cheese is supposed to spring something, and it's supposed to manifest into another behavior, another action. Melanie missed that mark. Melanie didn't do a thing to save anybody. It is my opinion, and I hate being so forthright because it almost seems like I'm judging her too much and that the critical side of me is coming out. But what has happened when they can't reach out like other people do? What has happened in society? Yes, Maureen Walsh, she did look kooky. She is kooky. She's kooky because she thinks she's above us. Again, I'm going to have a hard time. I don't know if you see that sun, the Florida sun here was, so I'm going to have a hard time seeing your comments. So please bear with me if I'm not responding, because not only does the glare come from the side, it comes from all over because the sun's so strong. It reflects off from everything. Good morning, everybody. Hello, Hurricane Kelly or Holly, if that's, see, I can't see the second word. I can see hurricane. Yeah, and that's a good word, hurricane. I said this the other day. It's like saying a hurricane's coming and nobody does anything. It's like the meteorologist getting on the TV and say, hey, there's a hurricane coming. You know, most people stop boarding up their house and putting sandbags out and doing, but these people don't do anything when the hurricane comes. They go limp. On one hand, they think they have a lot of effect on society, that they're so godly, like that they're looking to the heavens like that's their place. Like they're caught here. They're caught in mortal living. So they wouldn't call for a hurricane coming. They wouldn't react. Just like they didn't react when the hurricane of deaths were before them. Okay, I'm not religious, but from my memory, doesn't the Bible teach us not to worship false gods? Yeah. And Mormonism sounds counterintuitive to Christianity. Is that its purpose? Well, the only thing I know, and I'm certainly not a religious guru or anything. I have no idea about different religions, but I do hear that the LDS religion teaches people to some extent that they have a special connection with God, an individual connection with their God or whoever. I'm not sure who their so-called higher power is. So Chrissy, with that said, even if they have a personal connection, like in our religion, in Christianity, God is the supreme being. They think they stand beside their God. That's kind of, yes, but it fails living with mortal beings on earth. What I'm telling you, that whole ideal fails with the rest of us mortal beings, because that's exactly what I'm talking about. Because they think they're so supreme, we don't mean anything to us. We don't mean, you hit the nail on the head, mentally elevated themselves to a higher plane where they don't have to justify their, thank you, Chris. See, everyone says it better than me. I always talk in detail. I'm not succinct in my storytelling. I've always been like that. I have no idea why. It's probably from being hard of hearing or whatever, and having to really clarify myself and make sure. But anyways, you hit the nail on the head, Chrissy. I'm saying it back to you, that they have themselves so elevated that they are above us. So when we skin our knee and we're bleeding, they gaze and they look at it. They don't run off to get a Band-Aid to help us. They don't go run off and get a gauze pad to wipe it down, right? If we fall and we break our leg, they don't bring us to the doctor, because we are less than them. And this is what it's all about. So when Lori Ryan Daybell struts herself as the beauty queen on that stage, when she was a contestant for the Mrs. Texas pageant, she was not Lori Ryan. She was the god. She was the goddess. She was godlike. And she felt it when she was up there. You see it in her face. You see that she has sucked in all this irrelevant God stuff inside of her, and that she really is beaming, that she is part God. And so whatever their religion is, it really doesn't matter, because when you have a religion, you have to connect with humanity. You can't be above humanity. And this is where the cult loses this. This is where those beauty queens, just like Michael Jackson's song, I forget the name of it, but you know, he sings that song about beauty queens. You can't be all by yourself. Beauty, you might be beautiful on the exterior, but it's all the inside that connects you with people. It doesn't matter how much money you have, but that's where we get into the other part. They did not, the other thing that I see with them, they don't want to earn money honestly. They want to earn money by doing nefarious things, whether it's stealing money from their followers, like having their followers donate money to them, or in these cases, the extreme, killing others to profit, killing others to have an income that should have gone to the other person, but they killed them. So in their minds, yay, we got our income. There's no work, but they're so godly that they're not going to get their fingertips, roughened. They're not going to shed any sweat. No sweat. They are too godly for us, always have been in their minds. We are just disposable. So with that said, I'm going to read what Lyserge says. We who go to the discourse of the universe, if we be not altogether out of the wits, must invoke the aid of gods and goddesses and pray that our words may be, above all, acceptable to them and in consequence to ourselves. That's great, but they don't do that. In consequence to ourselves. They don't do that. In consequence to the rest of the world. In consequence to Charles Vallow, to JJ, to Tylee, to Tammy Daybell. They don't do that. There's no consequence to anyone except themselves. Even God, whoever this God is in anyone's religion, wouldn't put himself or itself or herself above a human being. They'd watch out for that human being. I did not notice that Laurie Schoolmates described her as being particularly glib. They did. I thought they described her as being, kind of a jokester. And yes, and when you mentioned how they think of themselves as gods and goddesses, I couldn't help but reminded of that quote. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then they get that fanatical thinking. And what about, that's why if I stop talking, then I lose where I'm going. I'm one of those kind. But it's a perversion. To me, it's perverted. Ted Bundy said the reason he killed people, and this is what he said in his last interview, he did it here in Florida, in the prison, Gainesville. Right before he was executed, he let one reporter, I forget the reporter's name, but he let one reporter in, and he did like an extensive interview. And he said, I can tell you why I murdered. And he said that he was watching and reading hardcore porno when he was a child, when he was a developing person. he said that because the hardcore porn had a lot of violence in it, he would suspect that it changed the way he thought about violence. And that growing up, because he delved into the porn world very heavily as a child. And think about it. I mean, he was a child. I can't remember if it was in the 60s. Yeah, I would think it would be in the 60s. Yeah, so, I mean, we didn't have all that kind of porn around like you can today. Like on the internet, there's porn, soft porn, hard porn, all kinds of porn. So he didn't have access to it. He had to literally go digging for it. He had to go stealing it at little mom and pop stores that sold soft porn. And then for the hard porn, I have no idea where he ascertained it. But think about it. He's saying he murdered people because he learned violence at a primary developmental age. And he believes he got demented. I mean, he doesn't use that word. I'm using that he got demented from seeing too much violence, that the violence started to take a hold of him. And obviously he became what he was viewing. Well, these people aren't porn-based. And these people, I hope, didn't grow up with violence all around them like Ted Bundy. So what makes them? That's the only thing I can think of. The only thing I can think of that developmentally went wrong with these people is the idea that they are superior beings. And therefore, if Melanie Gibb is at a higher place than JJ or Tylee, then if they're being suggested to be a zombie, it's not relative to her. It's a little dandruff on her shoulder. She just takes her hand and lightly wipes it off. It means zero to her. And we say, why didn't she respond? Her supreme being, why would she respond? She can't relate to us mortal people that would cry and mourn and become very despondent over a child being murdered or a child that's been zombified. She didn't know the children were murdered yet, but she definitely knew they were being zombified. And she also knew that that's how Charles had gotten killed. He had been killed because they zombified him first. So that gave them the godly strength and reasoning to kill him, to send him off. So what in the world would make Melanie Gibb relax, become complacent when there's a possible child that might be murdered? I just don't get it. They dehumanize Charles and the kids. Yes. And they do it because they're better than us. They walk with their head up high like Lori did in that Texas beauty pageant. They walk, they strut. They strut. They have an id. There is no super ego in them. They are working from, I am great. I'm the only one in the world. Super ego encompasses you start thinking about other people as you're growing as a child. They never developed the super ego. Never. I'm going to read DJ Norman's. He said, today is the Mormon prophet Hinckley's birthday. 623, and he died in 127. He was prophet during 911 and died like buildings 1, 2, and 7 backwards. Hinckley's death 127 is 721, and 721 is Day Oaks. The next, the prophet killed his first wife. Thank you for that, DJ. Anyways, Mega Triumph says they did it for money, so it was their goal to feed their egos. 100% Mega Triumph. 100%. They are the only ones that deserve the money. Even though those monies that they might have received or did receive were earmarked, slated for somebody else. In their minds, those somebody else's were not worthy enough to live to have that money. Manuela says, people who see themselves as better and more beautiful than the rest are vain, greedy, empty-hearted. Empathy is foreign to them. 100%. And that's what we're talking about. They're devoid of humanness. They are vessels that are empty. They have our bodies. They might have what would be considered mainstream appearance. They don't look like ogres. They don't look like someone that's going to jump out at you in the dark of the night and put a knife in you, but that's what they do. So it's a good lesson for us all. It's a mighty grand lesson to learn that evil comes in all shapes and sizes and looks, and they can be parents. They can be grandparents. Chad's a grandparent. You say it perfectly. Love listening to you. Thank you, Chrissy. Yeah, you guys say it perfect. What you guys do is condense it for me so that I can have it in like little, tiny things. Instead of telling a story for 5 minutes, you guys say it in one line, and it's perfect. It's perfect. But yeah, this is what it's about. It's about supreme beings that think they're almighty. And that's how I'm going to define the Daybell cult, because I think that they all feel that way. And that's why when you watch Melanie Gibb, there's this, for sure, insensitivity to all of the cruelness that was involved. All the cruelness that was involved with the killings and the leading up to the murders. All that premeditation to us would be extremely scary. Me and you, the common mortals that we are, would not be able to sleep at night, living with just purely the premeditation phases of their murders. But them, they, again, there's no other word. Like, you guys, tell me another word. I can only say devoid of humanness. They're devoid. They're empty vessels. How can a mother see her beauty before she sees that of her children, then hide behind the veil of religion? You're so right. That's all she cared about. Do you see her little skirt that she had on in Hawaii? And it said Hawaii on it. She was the goddess of Hawaii. Teenagers do that. You know that. Young adults. They walk around and they demonstrate, what's going on in peer life. Well, a 46, 47-year-old woman doesn't wear a little tiny mini skirt with the word Hawaii right at the round of her bottom, so that all eyes go to her bottom to read she wanted that kind of attention. It's about, because the vessel is empty. So look at me. Look at the houses I live in. Look at the money I can spend. Look at the cars I can drive. Look at the areas that I can live in. How can a mother see her beauty before she sees that of her children? Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, crazy, and crazy. That's all I mean, if I and then on top of it, they're not like me and you. Me and you are going to make a business if we can, if we have that ability. We're going to make a business, and we're going to try to make that business successful. Chad never had that idea with that publishing company. That never came into mind with him. He didn't think that he had to work at writing books and publishing books. He thought the only thing he had to do is write crazy stuff, and then all of the other crazy cult people would be there to, fill his coffers. But let's admit it, I've never even heard of who knew of Chad Daybell, the author, the publisher, before this case where they slaughtered everybody. Who ever heard? Did anyone? I didn't. Would I have ever known him? I wouldn't. I should have. I should have, because he's crazy. And I should have been looking out for the crazies. There should have been someone out there. Where's our newspaper reporters and real investigators that are out there warning us about these people? You know what I mean? Like, why wasn't there some 2020 Dateline 48 Hours show telling us that Chad Daybell was writing crazy books and that he was infiltrating the minds of feeble people? And I say feeble because they're supple. Once you lose your constitution, once you lose your identity of who you are, or maybe you've never had it because you've been brought up in cult kind of atmosphere, once you lose that, what can you do? What can you do except follow? So that's why I call them feeble-minded, because they're either following a false god, as someone has said earlier in this chat, or they're following a false prophet, which would be Chad Daybell, a prophet? My golly. My golly.